We're talking about the Quiet Riot tour dates. So you've already been touring, obviously. There are more dates to come. First obvious basic question is how's the tour going so far?
This is it. To me, it's like a continuation because it's not the type of tour that we can on a tour bus and we got like all these, like let's say 3 months in a row and then it's over. No, it's like we do this every weekend. We go out and it's a really nice balance because we don't get to go home to our families. We've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this myself for 45 years since I started with Ozzy in 1981. So, and I've been married for 41 years. So it's really good to have that kind of balance. So I'm not away from home on any long stretches. So it's going great. All the fans are showing up and they're banging their heads with Quiet Riot.
Of course, we're here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, not far from Rice Lake, June 7th at Aquafest, and then June 28th further down in east in the state, but in Wapaka at Indian Crossing Casino. Tickets, visit Ticketmaster.com, VIP meet and greet packages, visit quietriot.band. So what would you say is the most underrated Quiet Riot song of all time, and maybe in particular of songs on which you've played bass guitar, specifically been part of the process? Which is the most underrated Quiet Riot song?
Oh my God, what a great question because I never thought about it, so you're going to make me think right now. I would say Thunderbird. Thunderbird, that should have been a single. It's such a beautiful song, and the motive behind writing that song. Kevin wrote it for Randy Rhoads when Randy first left Quiet Riot in '79 to join Ozzy, and then after he passed away, he changed the last verse, the lyrics, to reflect Randy's passing, and that's the song that brought me back into the band, back in the Metal Health era, because I got a phone call from Kevin right before I was leaving for New York to record Speak of the Devil, which is Ozzy's re-recording for Black Sabbath song. We did that live at the Ritz in New York on 2 nights. So I got a call from Kevin just to come down to the studio if I wanted to play on Thunderbird. Now what happened was that when Randy left in 1979, Quiet Riot, the name Quiet Riot, the band ceased to exist. So Kevin put his own band called Dubrow. And I happened to join the band, Dubrow, and move in with Kevin for 8 months before I joined Ozzy. So I went from sleeping on the floor in Kevin Dubrow's apartment to joining Ozzy and then living with Ozzy and sharing that same thing. And within 24 hours, that happened in my life. And that completely changed everything. My trajectory, my future was completely changed within hours, of joining the band. Thank God for that. And so I would say Thunderbird is the song that Kevin called me and said, how would you like to play on that song? So I was still a member of Ozzy. I went down and after the Randy away, in 1982, March 19th, I lost the joy of playing. We carried on finishing the tour because we had the commitment of the tour dates, but it was never the same. And I needed some to start all over again. And so here I am. I go in the studio with Kevin, who of course I had the history of living with him and playing with him in both Quiet Riot and Dubrow, and then Frankie Benelli, who our history went back 10 years to 1972 when we started playing together in South Florida, and then we moved away from Florida when disco came in, and then we went to Chicago, then finally moved to LA. We ran out of money, we separated, and here we are 10 years later, we're finally in the studio, and we're recording Thunderbird. And that's the song that got me into playing with them again, and to feel the joy of making music with my former bandmates. There was that Quiet Riot connection with Randy already right there in that room. So I would say Thunderbird, to me, is the most underrated song.
And on the topic of Ozzy, and of course coming up the event in Birmingham in July, so that perked me up for a different reason than necessarily the music. My favorite soccer team is Aston Villa. Here over in western Wisconsin, I'm an Aston Villa fan, so I say, oh, it's at Villa Park. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. So do you happen to have a favorite pro soccer team?
Well, soccer team, not really, but this is going to be such a major event. I can't imagine a bigger event in metal that has ever happened or will ever happen in the future than the gathering of the tribe of bands such as Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Slayer and all the special guests who are going to be participating to pay homage, say thank you to the creators of the music that we play, which is metal, Black Sabbath. And honestly, a lot of those bands that became household names like Metallica, and by playing either on tour with Ozzy, being the support band, or Ozfest. So there's a lot. There's so much that and for myself, I got my break playing with Ozzy, and this is my way of saying thank you to Ozzy and Sharon, because Sharon, they work together on things, so they're both, they had to approve on certain things who were going to be the new band members and so on, and they treated me with so much kindness and generosity. I actually, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did move in with them the day that I got the audition of the band, because I was living, I was living on the floor in Ken Suplo's apartment, and they offered me a beautiful bungalow in Sharon's family estate in the Hollywood Hills. And, back in the day, it was, we all traveled in the same two of us, we all flew together. So, I spent my life with them for that couple of years that I was in the band, right before I returned to the mental health version of Quiet Riot.
Mm-hmm. Got about a minute left. So to wrap the legacy of Quiet Riot, if it's possible to do so in about 1 minute, I'll ask maybe a different question about the fans. What do the big fans of Quiet Riot, appreciate the most about the band?
Well, from my perception on stage is the fact that we're kind of like a living time capsule. We go on stage and we put on this, even though, we have new members, of course, Kevin Jerome, Frank Van Adler is no longer with us, but the spirit, the essence, which is interesting because that even though Randy was not with us when we did the mental health version of the band, it was his spirit that was the mainframe of what the musical integrity of the band is. Because, like I say, I played with Randy back in 1978, and he was the unspoken leader of the band, just leading by example, and that's been in my heart. This is what we carry, Randy's musical integrity, that of course was adopted by Brett Benelli and Kevin DeBro and myself, and all the current members of the band. So it's really a celebration of the legacy of the band and the memory of those who are no longer with us. Frankie, Kevin, and Ray.
Rudy Sarzo, talking about all those guys, Randy Rhoads, Kevin, you just mentioned them all. It's going to be a great celebration. Again, June 7th nearby, Rice Lake. Thank you for taking the time, Rudy, today to talk about all things Quiet Riot and the coming July event, and all the best going forward, and have a fun year.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to banging your